up, everybody? Anthony here, Reflection Concept, reflectionconcept.com. Welcome back to the channel. I'm down here on the floor of my studio because I'm showing off the new pedal board setup. It's something I've been working on for a few months now. If you follow me on Instagram, it's just Anthony.Pecora. I had a couple pictures. I don't think any video of this stuff yet, but I showed kind of this board, and I had shown this board here. It looks like a lot, right? It's essentially 3 pedal boards here, but there is some simplicity kind of built into this. I'll kind of rewind really quickly. Last year, I had the idea to build like a giant pedal board. That was just this middle one here, the Vertex kind of 2-tier pedal board. At that time, all I needed was, I was only doing like the ambient gig with my friend Lou Ross, drummer. And I just needed weird stuff, right? And I had the HX Stomp on here. I had the color box as my DI at the time that was kind of under the hood. So I had the Una and the color box under the hood. I'll get into what those are if you're not familiar. But if you've seen my channel before, I've talked a lot about some of this stuff. And of course, like we know how it is. Like the second you build this pedal board that you think, I did it, I never need another one, you very quickly like get a different gig or you realize you need another one. So right after that, I started subbing a 90s cover band thing. And I didn't need any of this stuff with my HX Stomp, which I really needed for the gig for some half step down stuff and just some really basic era appropriate sounds I could easily access in there, was on this board. So I was taking this giant board to a gig that just didn't need it, and it kind of sucked. It was kind of a rash a few times. So, and then I got a couple other pedals I wanted to add in, like the 3-leaf Octaver, the Union compressor, and the Luce. I was like, all right, well, where am I going to put these things, right? And, you know, it just, outside of that, it was just like, okay, let's start working on some new sounds. So, in doing that, I kind of ripped everything apart, and then I was like, all right, well, how am I putting this back together? I had the idea, and I did this before, but in a much lesser extent. I had this idea to have these modular boards that I could break apart or use together depending on the gig. And that's exactly what we have going on here. Again, it looks pretty complex. The signal chain's kind of complex as far as the flow. I'll talk about that in a second, but we break down the boards kind of one by one here. So we'll start over here. So this is just an HX Stomp XL, and a Countryman DI. I can do a lot with just that. So for the 90s cover band thing or any other gig that might pop up, I can just take this. I have a super clean, high quality, roadworthy workhorse DI in the Countryman, and I have all my cab sims, amp sims. I can get some wild and crazy effects. You know, everything you can access in the HX Stomp. There's so much versatility in that. I can just take this to a gig, a recording session, whatever, and get by, right? Cool. So that's one standalone thing. The other standalone thing would be this side here, which is what I think of. This is like my current perfect clean setup. Or if I just wanted kind of standard, great sounding bass, for me, perfect sounding bass, I could just take this board and run P-Bass through the Una, the Union Lab compressor, the JHS color box, and the Luce, the Jadfrier Luce DI, right? So if I knew the gig was just clean, I needed everything from, I just wanted the zhuzh or the harmonic content that this pedal board allows me. It's right there. About 2 videos ago on the YouTube channel, on this channel that you're watching on, I should say. Hopefully you've seen the video. If you haven't, I'll pop a little card up there so you can get over to it when you're done watching this one. I don't think I had the compressor in there at that point. Great clean tone though. So, okay, 2 options here. Really 3 options in just those 2 boards. Standalone board. If I want to take this and get all the extra juice from this circuitry here and all the harmonic shaping and content that I can get, I could take this and this. Done, right? Now we come to the middle board. Middle board has all the crazy stuff on it. And that's where if it's one of the ambient gigs, I'm taking all of this stuff, right? Or take that back. I might not take the HX Stomp because I have a lot of the crazy sounds built into this middle section here. So I could just take this and this. The one thing that I don't have on here, and it might be something to think about, maybe mounting some DI down under the hood here. It's not a bad idea now that I just thought of that. That way I could just take this board. I'm running through an amp or something. I don't need any cab sims or anything like that. We're not running in-ears. I should mount a good quality DI just on this board that I could patch in. All right, so let's go through the pedals and let's go through the, oh, don't forget the boomerang. The greatest looper ever, I think, at least for me. Let's go through the signal chain. This is where it gets a little bit complex, and what I haven't done yet is labeled. I haven't soldered all my cables to length for patching in because I'm not exactly sure what the layout's going to be, although I think this is pretty rock solid here. So I'll eventually label this. So forgive me if I mess this up. It's a relatively complex signal chain, but I think it makes a lot of sense. All right, so we're going into the unit. That's my buffer right up front. That was at the end of my signal chain. Now it's back to the front. Makes a lot of sense there for what I'm doing. Into the UNA here. So bass, UNA out to HX Stomp. HX Stomp, we're not using the Countryman because this isn't a standalone board. The Countryman would only be used when this is being a standalone board. We're going out of the HX Stomp into this little section here. The 3-leaf audio octave pedal, octave reverb pedal, given to me by the man himself, Tim LaFave. Thank you, Tim, very much for hooking me up with this. Greatly appreciate it. It's an amazing pedal. I've talked about that before. I love that pedal. Into the Boss SY200. The Dunlop is not a volume pedal. It is, but it's on expression mode, controlling the synth sound that I have in the SY200. Game changer right there. If you have an SY200, hook up an expression pedal to it. You're underutilizing it, and it took me years of fighting myself to do it. Finally did it. You'll hear it. It's amazing. Into the frequency analyzer, electro harmonics, ring modulator, best one ever. The subs on it are super juicy. So we go out from that. Now that patches over to here to the Union Tube and Transistor LAB, lab, or whatever you want to call it. It's basically an LA2A compressor. I like having this stuff. And in the case of sometimes in the case of this, specifically when I'm using this not as a standalone thing, I'm going to be getting some crazy like synthetic sounds out of this. So I think of this section here as like new voices on the bass. It no longer sounds like whatever bass I'm holding once I start running through this stuff. I want to compress that signal, right? Compression goes into the Way Huge Pork and Pickle. That's an overdrive and fuzz. I currently have it on overdrive. Now, that then we start our modulation. MXR layers, which is like indispensable to me for ambient stuff, swells and things. Red Panda Labs Tensor. Corona Mini Course on the Justin Meldal Johnson setting. Space Echo, Boss, the big dog, tap tempo available. Terra Echo, super cool. I get this like snaky reptilian kind of sound out of this. You'll hear that. Astral Destiny for the reverb at the end, and then we're into the Boomerang at that point. Boomerang goes out to the JHS color box. So now we're in this final section of like tone sculpting. Right before I'm going to hit recording interface, before I'm going to hit my amp. That's where like my final, I can get gain back, whatever I need to do. I can do my tone sculpting here. I had this under the hood in the middle thing, in the middle board. I didn't like it there because I was changing it situation to situation. I hated having to get these magnets flipped up on it. I wanted this out. And then out of that, we go to the Luce, the Jad Freer DI, which is just heavenly. Beautiful tube sound on it. So that's the signal chain when it's all together. And keep in mind, I could break this apart in many, many different ways. So let's go through some of the sounds. I'm going to run I'm going to stay clean on the HX Stomp right now. And you kind of hear what's going on here. Audio-wise, this ain't a pretty video audio-wise. I normally do a pretty substantial setup with isolating voice and record direct. This was I did this quick and I just wanted to get kind of a live feel to it. So I got my Lewitt 440 Pure, LCT 440 Pure condenser mic here. And I'm just running out of my Dark Glass 212 Alpha Omega head. So you're hearing room sound with my voice and the bass. That's clean. That's clean with all of the... There's nothing on right now on the HX Stomp. That clean is basically bypassed, even though I have it as a setting on there, which makes sense when I'm stomping through these first 6 sounds I have. Una's on. I have the bright switch down. The Union tube and transfers on. What a great compressor. And then the color box. All that stuff's on, essentially. If I turn that off, kind of hear where I'm going. Still sounds good. Doesn't sound this good, though. Cool. So then we go into octave. That's the octave pedal engaged kind of in like an OC2 kind of setting. Then we can isolate the subs. It's so good, man. It's the best. We can add some chorus onto that. And we can put some overdrive on there. Turn this down a little bit. Pretty close to a good synth sound right there, right? Get rid of all that stuff. And so here's that synth pedal, SY200. I have this patronage called Set It and Forget It, or Set It, Forget It. Just kind of a no-brainer way for me to go. Check it out with the expression pedal. Be a lot easier if I was standing up. Like, I don't love it just without the expression pedal. I kind of like this off. It's just so much better with the expression on. It's a really bad example of that because I'm doing it with my hand. Sorry about that. And then the ring mod, so good. The subs on that are so good. Sometimes I like it off though. Deep octave thing going on, then just overdrive. Here's fuzz. I forgot I had chorus on that whole time. Now check out the layers pedal. I love this thing. So we'll leave that overdrive on. Check this out. Sometimes I notice here, when I have that overdrive, I'm still kind of working through this. You get this little glitchy thing with this. It's almost as though it's not the overdrive's doing something weird on the triggering on this. It goes away when you run clean. And then what's also cool is I can trigger some octave up stuff from the HX Stomp into that. Love that pedal. And then Red Panda Labs Tensor. I have this set to constantly revoice and kind of re-overdub itself. That's the length. The green flashing thing is the length of it, of how often it's overdubbing. So we can start stacking this stuff together. Stuff there, and then Boss Space Echo, a little more higher tempo. We can start really stacking them up. There. And here's that Terra Echo kind of sound I got referred to as kind of a reptilian sound. It's not there. Why is it not there? Oh, that's why. And we got reverb at the end, so put that on there too. So it can be very wild, obviously, with all this stuff in there. But at its core, we can get rid of everything. And we just have a really great, clean bass sound if I was just using this. We got transformers in the lab. We got a Lundahl transformer in the... We have a proprietary transformer in the lab that they make, that Union makes, I think. Or no, it was like some custom opto circuit in there to emulate the LA2A. We have a Lundahl transformer in the color box. We have tube and transformer in the Luce. So we got all that good saturation harmonic content at the end. So as wild as we get here, it's still getting some juice from that at the end. But if we just want to use some effects from the HX Stomp strictly for a gig, I do have all this at my disposal. I have clean. I got an octave up. I got an octaver on there by itself, which is solid. I could use that standalone. Obviously, I'd have to put an overdrive in there. I have a ring mod, so if I need something almost like the frequency analyzer, there's good subs on that. Not quite as good as this, but they're rock solid. A cool envelope sound. have a standalone synth-based sound that I'm probably not in love with anymore. It's been a long time since I clicked this on. Let's see what it's about. Nah, it's really not a synth sound in that. I'd much rather go here for that. So it looks like a lot. It is a lot, but it's super functional. It fits exactly what I need. Thoughts? I'd love to know kind of what you think of a setup like this. Would this make any sense for you? If you want any help, have any questions at all on it, feel free to drop me a comment. I'm always happy to answer anything that I can. I'm by no means an expert at this stuff. I have been exploring pedals for the better part of 2.5 decades now. So I do have some good experience that works for me. Some of it might work for you, or at least kind of get your head in the right direction, or at least thinking in terms of the right direction, or get some ideas in your head. But I'd love to know your setup out there too. Use a couple pedals, use a ton of pedals. Do you hate pedals? Do you just use a DI? Do you not even use a DI? You go right out of the amp right in. I have a Dark Glass, which has a fantastic DI, and a cab sim too, so I could just take the amp, and even with an in-ear setup, I've just done that as well too. A lot of options. I like options, as you can tell here. So again, thanks for watching, and I hope you learned a little bit from this video, or at least again, kind of got your head moving in a direction it might not have been thinking before.